Divas. This week, special guest, one of my OGs. You all love him. Dave Aronberg, former state attorney from Palm Beach County, former state senator. He's on a book tour, a new book that he wrote, Fighting the Florida Shuffle. He'll tell us all about that. We talk about Jeffrey Epstein, and we talk about the Donna Adelson. We take a deep dive into true crime this week. Yes, we do. So we're zagging. Join us this week for Dave Aronberg.
A lot of the players in the industry are good. We worked with them, but the unscrupulous ones were giving the industry a bad name and causing so many unnecessary deaths. I mean, people all around the country would come down to Florida to get well and instead would leave in an ambulance or a body bag.
You're listening to Deeper Dive with Dara, a podcast by the News Service of Florida. Let's dive in.
All right, you're just going to lean in like this? Eat the mic.
I'm going to eat it.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad. The timing is good because I'm getting a different kind of Dave Aronberg than what I'm used to.
This is DA After Hours.
This is DA
After Dark.
Oh my gosh.
DA After Dark. DAAD.
DAAD and DKAD.
DKAD.
Yeah, that's Dara Cam. Hello.
Oh, I was thinking of David Kerner. I was like, all right.
Oh my gosh. Whatever happened to him? Hey, divas. Oh my gosh. I am so excited. I am here with one of my OGs. That's right, Dave Aronberg. Welcome back to Deeper Dive.
So great to be back with you, DK. We are recording this after dark. So this is DA and DKAD. That's right.
That's right. And Dave's done this several times, but never IRL.
In real life.
This is so fun. So we've got so much to talk about. Let's just jump right in. I mean, you want to give our divas a little bit of a background on who you are and how you got to be where you are, and then we want to get into the book, and then we're going to take a true crime deep dive.
Let's do it. I won't talk too much about my past. You can look it up online. I was a state senator for 8 years.
Google it.
Right. I was a state senator for 8 years. That's how you and I know each other.
Yep. And he represented Palm Beach County, and I think I worked for the Palm Beach Post at the time.
Yes, you're one of the good ones there.
May she rest in peace.
Who?
The Palm Beach Post.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
Actually, that's good. No, I don't think this. No, I'm glad with the new changes. They have new people there.
Okay.
Who are not tied down to the issues of the past.
Okay.
So, all right. You were one of the good ones.
I was always up here. I was never down in the mothership.
They had good people. Christine Stapleton, they had good people.
Yeah,
there.
she was good.
She was good. And she's still alive, so thankfully.
Yes. She's doing her own thing now. She's got some good stuff she's doing.
Yeah, we should make sure she listens to this because she deserves to hear what people think about her. So she's excellent.
She's a rock star. Okay.
So my district was West Palm to Fort Myers. So I went across the state through 5 counties. From sea to shining sea. It was a rare gerrymander that actually was a competitive district. It was a gerrymandered competitive district. And
that was Tom Rawson's seat,
That's
think.
correct.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Me.
That's
right.
Way back in the Wayback Machine.
That's right. Yeah. Then I ran for Attorney General in 2010, and I lost in a Democratic primary. And then a Republican beat the Democrat who beat me. That Republican's name is Pam Bondi.
Yes.
You've heard of her. And she hired me as her drug czar to go after the pill mills.
That's right.
So we worked together on that issue, and then I became state attorney. I got elected state attorney in 2012 in Palm Beach County.
15th Judicial Circuit.
Yeah.
Down there in Palm Beach County.
Yeah, and I continued my work in the opioid epidemic, but this time instead of closing down the pill mills, which we already did, it was to go after fraud and abuse in the drug treatment industry.
Right.
And this has become a national issue. And we fought this, what's called the Florida Shuffle in Palm Beach County, and we fixed it in Palm Beach County. And I wrote a book about how to fix the Florida Shuffle.
He's on a book tour.
Yes.
That's what brought him to Tallahassee.
I'm speaking to Tiger Bay about the book, and I urge your viewers, listeners, the divas,
yes,
to check out the book, Fighting the Florida Shuffle. You can buy it at Amazon or any bookstore. And it really, I do think it's something worth reading. It took me 4 years to write the book. It identifies the problem of the Florida Shuffle, which is not only that there's fraud and abuse in the drug treatment industry, but what's really a scandal is that well-intended federal laws actually fuel this corruption.
Yeah, it was interesting because I downloaded your book. I bought it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I downloaded it on Kindle, so I sped read it over the weekend. And
It's good, right?
It's really good.
Thank you.
And this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. There's 0 degrees of separation. I don't want to talk about my personal story without permission from my loved one, but if you've ever, there's really 0 degrees of separation with this issue nowadays. And I think that's part of why it became so imperative for the legislature to act on it, right? Because so many people were directly impacted by this pill mill epidemic. But what you're talking about is it's sort of the next level, right? And you guys fixed it in Palm Beach County. It isn't fixed really in Florida statewide, is it?
We fixed it in the county, but there are no walls around our border. So the corrupted drug treatment that fled our community were able to go elsewhere. Most communities don't even know what the Florida Shuffle is. And unless you have a task force, which we do, there's not a concentrated law enforcement effort targeted at taking them down. So we made 121 arrests in 5 years. We put handcuffs on so many of these bad players in the industry, these rogue players in the industry, because a lot of the players in the industry are good. We worked with them, but the unscrupulous ones were giving the industry a bad name and causing so many unnecessary deaths. I mean, people all around the country would come down to Florida to get well and instead would leave in an ambulance or a body bag.
I think at one point, didn't Delray Beach have more treatment centers, than any place else in the country? I forget what the statistic was.
Delray Beach was ground zero because they always had a thriving drug treatment industry. It's like the adage, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Mm-hmm. So when the Affordable Care Act passed and the people want to make real money off it, decided to exploit people in recovery, where did they go? They go to Delray Beach in Florida, where they had a number of people in recovery. And instead of trying to get them well, what they would do is commoditize them. They kept them in an unending series of relapses rather than recovery, because the money was not in sobriety. The money was in failure. And unlike other types of healthcare, so for example, if you had a broken arm and went to a doctor and the doctor said, Dara, keep coming back here every month. We're going to set your arm and then break it again. And we're going to get money from insurance and I'll give you $1,000 kickback every time you come. You would say, get lost, I'm calling the cops. But when you have the brain disease of addiction, substance use disorder, you're often a willing victim. You'd be like, okay, I'll get drugs from you. I'll get money. I'll get free housing. And I don't have to go home to a snowy climate and live with my parents and find a job. And all I have to do is just relapse and give my brain what it's craving. Yes, please. And that is the Florida Shuffle. Really, the insidiousness of this is that you have people who are exploiting others at the lowest stages of their lives.
But they're not really knowingly participating in that, a lot of the patients, right? You talk in the book about people there was human trafficking going on. There were women who were basically, they were sex slaves, essentially, in exchange for getting drugs. They were kept doped up so that they were,
Yeah, that's chapter
pimped.
1.
Yeah.
Chapter 1, I focus on that because that was the worst of the worst. That was a Kenny Chapman
That's right.
brothel that was masqueraded as a sober home.
Yeah.
Your tax dollars at work, right? And you had individuals, women, who were allowed to live there for free while they were ostensibly in recovery, but they were forced to have sex with strangers. Or if you didn't, if you absolutely refused and he allowed you to refuse, you then had to go on Worth Avenue and steal purses. So this is what was going on under the noses of law enforcement, regulators, politicians, until it was finally shut down. Now Kenny Chapman's serving 27 and a half years in prison. Mm-hmm. But I started my book with that chapter because that was as bad as it gets. That's not someone agreeing to enter the Florida Shuffle. That's someone being chained against their will.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, really, literally chained down to a bed and with all their ID and information taken so that if they escaped, where do they go? Have clothes on their backs, and the doors and the windows were sealed shut.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe that wasn't a great example, but it is an example of the kind of characters that are in that that were in that sober home, I'm using air quotes, industry, right? And
Yeah.
the vulnerable people who are patients.
Exactly. I didn't use the name. A lot of people, I for their confidentiality, I use pseudonyms. But with that woman who starts my book, I purposely gave her the name of my wife. I put my wife's name in there because I wanted for me and to be able to talk about how this could be your loved one.
Right.
This is not an anonymous statistic. And that's the thing. We all pray into this where we just say, well, these are addicts, these are users, they want to be there, or the statistics, they're just some number. No, this is someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's child, someone's mother. And losing someone like that is the loss of the entire world to someone. And that's why I wanted it to be known to me and everyone else that these people are worth saving. And that's the thing, unfortunately, with the stigma with substance use disorder.
Still
Yep. Is that there's a belief, and I've talked to many groups, and I've had groups of people who otherwise caring individuals who are saying, why do we care?
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Exactly. But your brain changes. And, most of these people get involved with these opioids because they go to a doctor and innocently get prescribed this stuff because you had a multinational corporation, Purdue Pharma, market their drugs like it's Advil. And they have a marketing campaign to sell it to people as a drug of first resort when it should never be used first. It should be used as like an end-stage cancer treatment or when nothing else works. And here they are creating millions of addicts from a drug, and they're making billions of dollars of it. And we're blaming those who succumb to this marketing campaign. Like they're the problem.
Yeah.
So that's why I tried to show that this is not a moral failing. It's a brain disease.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. And I appreciated that. And so what did you do to crack down on these homes? And I really want to get to the part that was surprising to me, which is what you want Congress to do. And that is the Americans with Disabilities Act getting in the way of helping to regulate these homes, that was kind of like a mind blowing for me to read that. As someone who has a chronic illness and is really covered under ADA, maybe it was me being ignorant and not knowing that. I feel like I know a lot about this particular issue, and that was a surprise to me.
We have well-intended laws that have done a lot to help people. The Affordable Care Act, which has provided behavioral health care to millions of Americans who otherwise wouldn't have it. And yet at the same time, because there's no yearly or lifetime limitation on how many times you can go through rehab under the Affordable Care Act, and because they reimburse on an old school fee-for-service basis, not an outcome-based reimbursement basis, that incentivizes the worst players in the industry. The more services you provide, the more money you make. And so if you're out there to make a fast buck, wow, the big money is in failure. It's in relapse, not in recovery. So that's one area. That's the Affordable Care Act. They should change from fee-for-service reimbursement to outcome-based reimbursement. Let's reward the good providers and punish the scummy ones, because right now the opposite is true.
Let me stop you there and ask you, as somebody who's been in recovery myself and haven't had a drink in 20 years, but what programs, I guess my question is, how do you measure the efficacy of the programs, and what programs would be eligible for reimbursement under that? Because there's so much, variation.
No, you're asking the right question. And that is the challenge. But
would anybody make any money, I guess, is the question, right?
Do you know, under the same Affordable Care Act, if you're a hospital and you have excess readmission rates, you get penalized. You get money put aside.
Okay.
So under the same Affordable Care Act, it has a model to follow. That's the model.
Okay. Now, you can't have the same patient 10 times, in other words.
Right. But you're asking the right question. Behavioral health is different.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, relapse is often part of recovery.
That's right.
Right. And so you're going to punish people who try to get people well, and yet it doesn't take. Well, I'm saying, no, you don't have to. You can create a formula, and you can create a formula where the good providers are getting paid more, because we know who the good providers are, and we know who the criminal providers are. We know who the bad ones are. Put me in a room with a few more people, we'll create a formula, and You could always tweak it later. But right now, the opposite is true. Right now, the incentive is for relapse. The incentive is to exploit people. And that should never happen. And that's why I realize it is imperfect to say we're going to fix this problem overnight with one formula. But we can do a better job at a formula than we have now. I can guarantee we'll improve it. And now, as far as the Americans with Disabilities Act,
explain that. Yeah, because that was just to me, that really blew me away.
Another well-intended law, done a lot of good. Under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, a sober home is protected because the people who live there are in recovery. So if you're in recovery, you are considered disabled under the ADA. And a community and an HOA cannot discriminate against that sober home. And by not discriminate, that has been interpreted to mean you can't have mandatory registration, certification, inspections. And I just think that ties the hands of local governments, because now we are protecting the rogue owners, right?
Instead of the people who are living there,
Yes.
really. I mean, that's crazy.
You know, in Florida, we have a group called FAR, Florida Association of Recovery Residences. It's a private group, but they have the license from the state of Florida through DCF to inspect sober homes. But you can't require sober homes to be members of FAR. You can't require sober homes to be inspected by FAR. So what we do at the state levels is to say, all right, we're going to have carrots and sticks. If you are a sober home and you are a member of FAR, if you are licensed by FAR, which is a gold seal of approval, then you can refer your residents to an outpatient treatment center. But you cannot get referrals or send referrals out unless you are licensed, certified by FAR.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our incentive. So you're like, well, okay, you're going through this carrot and stick approach. Why don't you just require every sober home to be certified, to have inspections?
Right.
You can't under the ADA. So if you have a HOA or a city that says, Dara, you're not allowed to have 9 unrelated people living in your 3-bedroom house. You can't. The owner of the house can say, under the ADA, we get a reasonable accommodation because the people in my house are disabled. They're in recovery. And the city has to give them the reasonable accommodation.
Right.
Now, we have worked with cities to try to put some more strings attached to it because we want there to be some sort of guarantee, some sort of safeguard to know that these individuals aren't being exploited.
Right.
But federal law makes it harder. And we have, in the book, I testified before Congress twice. I have prescriptions on how to tweak the ADA to protect those in recovery. I'm not trying to discriminate against anyone. I want to protect them. But federal law makes it hard to do so.
Right. Do you think that Congress is going to make these changes? I mean, with the way Congress is now, it seems like nothing has a chance of getting passed, no matter how useful it is.
I testified before Congress twice about this
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago, and Congress did what they do, which is they listened, they were polite, and they did nothing.
Yeah.
And to think that Congress now is any better than it was then, it's only been worse.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Members of Congress, they have so many priorities and they have limited time and they don't want to delve into something that could be complex. So I wrote this book to say, please read this and you'll understand this problem. But right now, if you ask members of Congress what to do about the drug epidemic, they would say more money for rehab. But what if the money is the problem? What if the rehabs are the problem? They don't have an answer for that. They don't understand that the laws that they support that have been well-intended are actually doing some people harm. And you don't have to undo the law. I support the ADA. I support the ACA. I just think they need to be tweaked to make them better so that people won't die.
Yeah,
That's
my fear if they tweak the ACA is they'll do away with some of the protections and some of the provisions in there that, we've all come to depend on, pre-existing conditions being one of them. Coverage for mental health and substance abuse is something that we all now are relying on, right? The problem is once you get used to it and then you take it away, what happens?
Well, I think now there's so much political support for the ACA that if they tried to undo it, they tried to repeal it, they'd be held to pay. So I don't think it's going to happen. At the same time, there are so many grieving families out there who thought that their insurance would be a lifeline. It would help their child with addiction get well, when it was that very insurance that led to their children's demise. And that's such a tragedy. It's totally unavoidable.
We'll be right back with Dave Aronberg.
Together, we've been through it. Big storms, long hot nights, and the sigh of relief when the lights come on. At Tampa Electric, we never stop preparing. We strengthen lines, trim trees, and underground miles of power lines every year. And when a storm hits, we're all in. Every team member works around the clock until the power's back on for everyone. Yay! Because together, we can power through any storm. See how you can prepare at tampaelectric.com/stormcenter.
Divas, you know what time it is. It's that time. The news in haikus, the news in haikus. Waning gibbous moon. Speakeasy open all night. DD after dark. The news in haikus. The news in haikus. Don't forget, we'd love to hear your haiku. You can slide them into my DMs, or you can send them to podcasts, that's podcasts with an S, at e.newsserviceflorida.com. Wherever you're listening, please don't forget to subscribe and give us a rating if you like what we're doing. And we're back. I'm here in the Speakeasy with Dave Aronberg. If any of our listeners has a loved one or themselves is struggling with an addiction issue, given what you've learned and what you've written in your book, give our divas your best advice and tell us what you think they should do.
Well, get help and do more research on the recovery center than most people do, because unfortunately we found that for many people, they put more research into buying a TV than they do on the healthcare facility to send their child to. Don't do it based on a Google search. That's part of the book where you show how Google had been taken over by bad actors.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. So
and they actually, the Florida Drug, the association, they took over their, what's the Florida?
It was the Florida Association of the Drug Treatment
Florida.
Providers,
I thought it was the Florida Alcohol and Drug Abuse Association or something like.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes. It was like a
the drug abuse, the Association for Providers.
Right, the providers. So you have this association that exists to help steer people towards the good providers. This is a quality organization. And if you want to do your due diligence and you said, you know what, I'm not going to trust a Google ad. I'm going to call the phone number that's on Google for this association in Tallahassee. And people would call them. And that number was hijacked by a drug treatment provider who is steering them to their own facility. This is what was going on a daily basis. That's part of the fraud out there.
It's crazy.
Crazy. So we convened a grand jury and we got Google to change their ad policies. So now if you have a drug treatment center and you buy the keywords drug treatment near me, you won't come up like you did previously when someone typed in drug treatment near me, because people in Seattle would be, well, drug treatment near me, and up would come Heavenly Valley Recovery of Delray Beach.
Right.
And you wouldn't know until you clicked on it that this is a center in Delray Beach that would send you a free one-way plane ticket to go down to Florida. One way, because you wouldn't be coming back. And that now is a felony. And by the way, these centers, Heavenly Valley Recovery, first of all, there are no valleys in Delray Beach, and where you're going ain't heavenly.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else? Is there anything that you learned while you were writing this book?
You know, I was always wondering why the insurance companies kept paying. Why aren't they fighting the fraud? Like, is it in their interest to keep paying out? And the answer is yes, actually. Under the Affordable Care Act, another well-intended part of it, there's an 80-20 rule where they have to give back 80% of all their premiums back to policyholders. They get to keep 20% for administrative costs and profit. Well, what if the large size of the pie, the 80%, grows because you're paying out
Mm-hmm.
fraudulent claims. Well, then the 20% of the side, the amount you keep in profits can grow too.
Right.
So again, the incentive is skewed. It's all messed up. So that's something I learned as one of the reasons why the insurance companies aren't so zealous in fighting fraud in this area.
Well, congratulations on fighting the Florida shuffle.
Yes.
And he is on a book tour, Dave Aronberg. We're going to shift away from sober homes and kind of the whack-a-mole with that and the pill mills. Usually when we have you on, we talk about politics and Democrats. We can get to that if we have time at the end. We should have all the time in the world because it's dark out. But okay, let's talk a little bit about true crime. We don't do true crime here very much, except as I was prepping for this, reading your book over the weekend, everyone here in Tallahassee is completely enthralled by this Donna Adelson, and the Dan Markel, the horrible murder of Dan Markel. Donna Adelson's trial just wrapped up. She hasn't been sentenced yet. As I was preparing for this, I was listening to a podcast over the weekend, and I like to listen to these ones where there's different lawyers because I like to hear what the lawyers' takes are. And really, unbeknownst to me, I'm listening and they're like, oh, our pal Dave Aronberg's back. And so I said, well, this is great because I did not know that you were doing the Markel Adelson circuit on podcasts and YouTube and TV, I'm sure. So we have now our own legal expert on this case. I think everybody must know the whole history of it. What surprised me, like 11 years since he's been murdered. It seems like it was just 2 or 3 years ago. You were friends with Dan Markel.
Yeah, a lot of us were up here.
Sure, because it's a tight-knit legal community and a tight-knit Jewish community in Tallahassee too, right?
Yeah, we're lawyers and we were from Harvard. Both of us went there for college and law degree, and both Jewish, and so it was a natural connection. He was a great guy. I knew him when I was up here living as a state senator while I was up in Tallahassee. So I wasn't as close to him as the locals here were, but he was a great guy, and I knew he had issues with his marriage that had sadly fallen apart. But I knew that he loves his kids more than anything in the world. And what's so tragic about this is that it's his devotion to his sons that led to his murder.
Yeah. And
it's heartbreaking. And I knew Wendy, not well, but I could, how can anyone think that his in-laws would be the ones who would kill him? When I first heard that he was murdered, I thought it was a random, crime, but then, maybe a home invasion that went awry.
Right.
And then started to hear the rumors, and then things didn't add up. And then when the hitmen were caught, it was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Nothing was taken. These are hitmen.
Yeah.
And then now you see one by one. Kudos to Jack Campbell and his team because they
very methodical.
And that has worked because if you
took their time.
If you arrested everyone at the same time, imagine if you just decided to arrest the whole family at the same time. First, you wouldn't have enough evidence to get Donna, I don't think. I think you needed to get the evidence that you got from surveillance of Charlie and the evidence of Charlie. Like, for example, could you have prosecuted Donna? Probably, but would it have been as strong if you didn't have Donna fleeing to Vietnam on one-way plane tickets?
I know.
You got that because that happened after Charlie was convicted. You don't get that if you prosecute Donna at the same time as Charlie.
That's true.
Also, same thing with Wendy. I think you got more evidence on Wendy because you were able to nab Donna as she's boarding the plane to Vietnam, and you got her phone. What do you think's on her phone? I think some damaging stuff. Also, now we know, which we didn't know before, that Donna had Danny's make and model of his car and his license plate in her 2014 day planner 2 years after the divorce. Why would an ex-mother-in-law ever have her ex-son-in-law's make, model, and license plate listed so prominently on the back of her planner? And who would give her that information? I'll give you one guess.
The person who I've heard you say is going to be next in line in Georgia Kappelman's target.
So before the Donna Adelson trial, I said that it is more likely than not that Wendy will be prosecuted next, but only if Donna is convicted, and she will be convicted. I said more likely than not. But after this trial, once I saw the evidence that came out in the trial, things that I didn't know,
Right.
I've been following this closely. I didn't know, for example, another bit of information. Did you know that the killers, when they came to Tallahassee the first time, they rented a silver Nissan that was identical to the car that Jeff Lacoste
Yes,
drove?
I did know that.
And
I
who's
did
Jeff
know that.
Lacoste? Right. Jeff Lacoste was Wendy's boyfriend,
Yeah.
who she allegedly was trying to frame for the murder. What a coincidence that they rented the same car that he drove. Again, this is all new stuff. I think now 95% chance Wendy is indicted. I'd be shocked if she's not. And I'm not trying to put pressure on Jack or Georgia. Both of them are outstanding.
I don't think they need to hear, she was very coy when she was asked. We call her Georgia now, all of us here, even though we don't know her personally. But she was asked because she said, stay tuned after Charlie was convicted. They asked if they were going after Donna, and she said, stay tuned. So they goaded her into saying, stay tuned when asking about Wendy Adelson. I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but some of it is just so, I don't know if I want to say clumsy or so predictable, or like you were saying, like Wendy was asking, like kind of trying to find out, they were breaking up and she wanted to know when he was traveling and what his travel dates were. And they rented the car that looked like his car. Oh. And I mean, it is, it's going to be a Netflix series, but it almost feels to me when you're hearing the testimony and reading what happened through all these trials, that if you were to pitch this as a Hollywood star, it would be too far-fetched, like you wouldn't be able to even sell it.
Yeah, a Jewish grandmother who's saying, dress the kids in Nazi uniforms. That's a way that you'll get their father to relent and let them relocate.
Send them to Christian school and change their names.
And yet after Danny was murdered, the family got what they wanted. They got the relocation immediately, and they immediately changed the kid's last name.
Yeah.
Also, there was another thing I didn't realize, and some of this may have been mentioned before, but at trial, about how Wendy decided to call off the purchase of her home in Tallahassee. She was going to move to a home here, a different home. And then she called it off, and she said it was because she couldn't afford that home. They hired a forensic accountant who said, nope, her finances said she could afford the home. And the reason why, the implication was that she called off the purchase, was that she was told by her brother that Danny would be murdered soon, and so she shouldn't buy the home up here. So these are all little bits and pieces of stuff that will come back to haunt Wendy if and when she's put on trial.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, I heard you talking about it the other day. Well, two things I want to ask. Like, Wendy had some sort of immunity that's a special kind of immunity when during the Charlie Adelson trial. Can you tell us, and how will that affect if she has to, if she gets prosecuted? And then what kind of basis for appeals do you think that Donna Adelson might have?
All right, let's take the first part.
Okay.
One of the reasons why the prosecutors did not just prosecute everyone at the same time, they had to build a case against each one, but also they needed Wendy's testimony to fill in the gaps in the cases against Charlie and the case against Donna. Mm-hmm. And if they had charged her, then they really couldn't use her as a witness. And so they didn't charge her yet. So she was subpoenaed to testify, and you can't force someone to testify when they have Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. So to get her to testify, to force her to, they gave her immunity. So there's no right, there's no self-incrimination if you can't be incriminated, right?
Right.
If you're given immunity. But she's not given immunity for everything. Like, she's only given what's called use and derivative use immunity. So use immunity is that anything you say will not directly be used against you. We may still prosecute you, but we'll have
something else.
We'll develop evidence on our own. It won't be based on what you said. We can prove that everything we'll have against you will be stuff that we had independent of anything you just said. And derivative use is that we're not going to then pursue something based on what you said. So if you said, I dug a hole to conceal things. And then, well, we're not going to use that against you, but we're going to dig up the hole and we're going to find the evidence. No, that's derivative. You can't use that either.
Okay.
So it's okay. It's okay that she got that. That's normal. It doesn't mean they can't prosecute her. Now, the broadest form of immunity is called transactional immunity. That's rarely given. And that means you can't be prosecuted for the crime no matter what. Like, you're done. You can walk free.
Okay.
That's how desperate we are for your testimony. They didn't give her that.
Yeah. Were you surprised at the length of time that the jurors took? They took 3 hours for Charlie and they took 3 hours for his mother. Was that, and you didn't watch. I heard you saying that you didn't watch her reaction. I watched I watched live. I was watching.
Oh, I was at dinner. I didn't know it would come back so fast.
I was watching because I got an alert. The jury's coming back and, and she was shaking. I guess you wonder, like, what was she really in that denial that she didn't know? When they come back that soon, you had to know, right?
I don't interpret what she did, her histrionics, as being sad, and I didn't see any tears. She was crying I didn't see any waterworks. I saw it as lashing out. I saw it as, how dare you hold me accountable? I am not accountable for anything in this world. And that's how I saw it, as like a way for her to be like she has this.
She was indignant.
She was indignant.
Yeah.
Also, she has contempt for Tallahassee and the people who live here. And I think this was her way of saying, you hayseeds, how dare you do this to me? And that's how I interpreted her reaction.
Okay. What kind of grounds for appeals do you think she might have?
Well, I don't think any good ones, because maybe the best ones, but
her not testifying, and then the judge kind of lost his I mean, he did a great job, Judge Everett.
Yeah.
But I mean, she kind of hemmed and hawed about whether she wanted to testify or not, and then he kind of lost patience and she ended up not testifying.
Yeah, but she could have come back the next day and said, I've changed my mind. If she had come back the next day and said, I changed my mind, I want to testify, he would have let her.
Right.
He bent over backwards for her. For example, when they had 2 witnesses sitting in the gallery watching other witnesses testify, that violates the rule against sequestration. So you can't do that. And after the first time it happened, he gave the defense a pass. After the second time, he could have barred that second witness, that expert witness, from testifying. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll allow this witness to testify. So again, that takes away a grounds for appeal. I don't know any real grounds that she has for appeal here. I think that she's in a lot of trouble. I think she's going to die in prison.
I was going to ask you what kind of sentence you think she's going to get. She didn't get sent. They were ready to sentence. The prosecution was ready to move forward with sentencing.
Well, because she's going to get life. That's the sentence. I mean, she was convicted of first-degree murder. It's life.
Yeah,
she's done.
Yeah,
and now she'll die in prison. Now
she was bitching about the food and the carbs and everything.
The carbs, it's like pasta with potatoes. Yes, it's not the 4 seasons. In prison, there's only 1 season. It's like you're at the 1 season hotel.
The 1 season.
It's like what do they call what was the hotel, the Prince Murat? It's like
my gosh. Yes.
I don't want to get sued by the owners of the Prince Murat.
No, I think it changed hands, but it's still there. It is still there.
So
there's something still there.
This is why I love Tallahassee. See, I spent a lot of time here. I had a place here when I was in the legislature, and I can throw out a Prince Murat reference. How many people from South Florida could do that?
Not many. We'll give you a little for Prince Murat.
Do you remember that? You remember that the lights would go out for the MU and it came out as Prince Rat Hotel? And I was like, well, that's fitting. That's truth in advertising.
It was on the way to Cafe Divorcee.
It's on that. There's a great location right there in the corner of Thomasville and Monroe.
It's a terrible location. All right. What other kind of true crime? You had all kinds of cases that you were doing in Palm Beach County. And one of them, as I was Googling, Killer Clown. Tell us about the Killer Clown case, because that kind of, when I read about that start to finish, it started out you were going to go for the death penalty. And then you said, no, we didn't. And then she ended up only doing like 2 years of 17-year. Tell us about that case.
I mean, this is we could do a whole podcast on this one. This one.
All right. Well, we'll come back and do it.
Let's go back and do it. But let's just say this. This was a cold case. It was from 1990. So
yes, it was. I should have started with it was a cold case.
So we got an arrest 27 years later after I became state attorney, and DNA helped us. But these cases show their age. I mean, by the time, because of COVID, that I went to trial or was supposed to go to trial, it was now 2023, and we're talking about 33 years later. And key witnesses started to die. And evidence, it was bags of evidence that came apart at the seams at the sheriff's office, and we were worried we're going to lose the whole case before it ever got to a trial. So we agreed to a plea deal with the approval of the victim's son. That was most important.
I see.
And when my prosecutors came to me and said that they wanted to cut a deal where she'd plead guilty to manslaughter. This is a woman who dressed up as a clown to kill her lover's wife. So she was cheating with this guy, and his wife had to be taken out of the picture.
Right.
And she got away with it for 27 years.
Long time. They ended up getting married.
And they got married. Yeah. There's evidence against you, and she changed her name.
Yeah.
And I don't know why an arrest wasn't made previously, but it wasn't. And eventually DNA confirmed what we all thought and knew. And so we made the arrest. And at first I wanted the death penalty against her. I support capital punishment, and I think in cases like that, I was in favor of it. But then the case showed its age, and we realized that we were unlikely gonna get even life in prison. And so we entered into settlement negotiations. My prosecutor came to me and said, a manslaughter, and it'll be, I forgot, it was 12 years. And I said, no, it's got to be murder. And so we got a murder conviction.
Right.
And it has to be within the guidelines, the sentencing guidelines back then. Back then, in 1990, you remember, essentially, if you committed murder, you were given like 6 months and a free car on the way out. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it was like really ridiculous.
I don't remember, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the turnstiles of justice. Like, you were led. I mean, it was ridiculous. The sentencing recommendation started at I think it was whatever the sentencing guideline was. Our sentence was that. That's what we entered into. But because of gain time, what's supposed to be like 15 years or whatever it was, 12 and a half years became 2.5 years.
Yeah, it was.
So she served that 2.5 years, whatever it was. She is a convicted murderer forever. She can't just go home to her old life and just say, hey guys, I'm back again. I didn't do it. Yeah, you admitted to it.
You actually, cold cases were a thing for you. You got a $500,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to go after, you had more, I think your office had 400 cold cases and you were going after those. How did that work out?
Well, this is an example of it. And before people think, well, she committed murder and she got out in 2.5 years.
Okay.
The 2.5 years was added to her time served already. Now, because of that long wait between when she was arrested and when the trial was supposed to go, she was in prison in solitary confinement for 5.5 years.
Oh, okay.
So you're talking about 5.5 years plus another 2.5. So it wasn't nothing, especially 5.5 years in solitary confinement. I mean,
I didn't mean to imply he got a look on his face when I mentioned this case. Is it kind of
the clown killer case.
Does it sit bad with you, the outcome of it?
No. I think it was a measure of justice. It was far from perfect.
Okay.
No, I'm proud of the fact that we did something.
You got a conviction. Yeah.
She was out there living her best life for 27 years, getting away with it.
Right.
So I would no, that's fine. And it's when you're a state attorney, you can't go in there as like a Pollyanna, think that the world is perfect, the justice system is perfect, and everyone guilty is going to serve the maximum. You have to realize that our system is built on we'd rather 100 guilty people go free than to convict one innocent person. And so when you get someone like this who had gone away with it for so long, and then she was finally held accountable in part, you take your victory.
Your office also, Jeffrey Epstein.
Not me.
Okay, state attorney's office down there, not you. Your office ended up being involved in release of some documents or...
Yes, so we can talk about that. So the Jeffrey Epstein case, that was...
You didn't cut the deal.
No, that was 3 state attorneys before I got there. That was like 5 or 6 years before I got to the office.
Yes, we know that, right.
But the Palm Beach Post decided to sue me and my office to obtain the grand jury
I
transcripts.
wasn't there. I was gone.
What happened was the Palm Beach Post got scooped by the Miami Herald,
I
newspaper
know.
90 miles away.
Yeah.
Julie Brown broke the story, and the Palm Beach Post had egg on its face because this was in their backyard. So to try to play catch up, they sued me for grand jury transcripts for Jeffrey Epstein. The only problem is I never had the grand jury transcripts. State attorneys don't have grand jury transcripts. The court has it. The judges, the court. It's you have to sue the clerk of court. So they sued me and the clerk. And I kept saying, you're suing the wrong person. I don't have it. And they kept writing these stories about, Aronberg and the clerk, they're trying to obstruct us from getting these documents. And it's just so frustrating. So this is why I have this feeling I do about the Palm Beach Post.
All right.
And eventually they dismissed me from the action. But let's just say this. My dealing on this one, my interaction with the Palm Beach Post on this one is not over. I'm not going to let that slide. Everything that has been printed, and I'm just not going to let it slide.
All right. Well, let's put a pin in that. We'll come back after when that's riper, I guess, right? But let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, this is a Palm Beach County thing. There's Mar-a-Lago involved. Ghislaine Maxwell is here in, not anymore. She was here in Tallahassee. Now she's in Texas, I guess. Club Fed. I don't know. What do you think's going to happen? First of all, I had Julie Brown on the show about a month ago, and I'm going to have her back because it's like this is not going away.
I've been shocked at how Donald Trump has handled this, because one thing that he's an expert at is marketing, is spin. He knows this area. And so I don't think he did anything criminal with Jeffrey Epstein. At least there's no evidence of that. But it's clear that he was friends with him. Jeffrey Epstein referred to Trump as his best friend. So it's well documented they had a long-term friendship. Doesn't mean that he was ever at Epstein Island or ever engaged in child sex trafficking. So then why is he so protective, meaning President Trump? Why is he so protective about the files? He denied that birthday card. Now that made it to a much bigger issue.
Just today, yeah.
Now there's proof. There it is.
Yeah.
And so why? Because it's not the crime, it's the cover-up, right? And like I said, I don't think he's guilty of anything, but he's sure acting that way.
And you'd think it's just this fascination with Jeffrey Epstein just because of the horrific crimes that he committed and because of the celebrities that he was hobnobbing with? Or why do you think people are so obsessed by it? Well, the victims, let's just talk. They want justice, and they really deserve justice.
The victims deserve justice. And
yeah.
They've been let down
they have
by people in power for so long.
That's right.
And now, essentially, they're being called a hoax by the president. And that's what prompted them to have that press conference. And so it just keeps this story going. And that's another thing. It's like the president keeps making it worse. And what he should have done is just to come out and say, yes, we were friends. Yes, I knew him well, but I'd never been on Epstein Island. In fact, I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago when he acted inappropriately towards the underage daughter of a member. And that was the last time we spoke. And I'm done. I never wanted to have anything else to do with this guy. There you go. But instead, it's by refusing to release the files, it just makes it look like there's more of a cover-up.
To hide, yeah.
And here's the thing. The reason why this is not going away is that this was a conspiracy theory that his supporters pushed for years.
Yes.
And so now his supporters are saying, he promised us the goods, and now you're saying nothing to see here. And that's why it's not going away. So people say, well, the Democrats are pushing this, and they didn't care about it before. All right, I will give you this. The Democrats see blood in the water, and that's why they're pushing this now. But this was never a Democratic conspiracy. This was always a Republican conspiracy theory about Democrats. This was a Republican conspiracy theory, and not just not mainstream Republicans. No, I'm talking about far-right MAGA, QAnon.
That's right.
Right? This is a MAGA conspiracy theory where the Epstein files supposedly have a list of Democratic elites, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates.
That's right.
And they lead a child sex trafficking ring that would make Pizzagate blush. This is what this is about. And so now that their folks are in control, including people, by the way, who spread that conspiracy, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who are in charge of the FBI, the right-wing MAGA folks are understandably saying, where's the beef? Where is it?
Right.
And they're not going to be satisfied with piecemeal efforts of, well, here, we'll give you grand jury transcripts, which they're not getting. They're not going to be satisfied with, here's a Ghislaine Maxwell interview, which was self-serving.
Yeah.
They're not going to be satisfied with Chairman Comer's committee getting, bits and pieces.
Of
They
redacted,
want
the
Epstein
redaction
file.
stuff, and they want it.
They want it. So it's not going away. And that's why this story continues to have legs.
I know it's getting later, so just give me the sign when you're ready. But I've got a couple of more things I want to do before we say goodnight. We talked before when the governor suspended Andrew Warren, and I don't know if we talked after the suspension of Monique Worrell, who got reelected. It looks like Monique Worrell 2.0, the Attorney General, Attorney General James Ethmeyer, who was on the show a couple weeks ago. We didn't talk about this, but I'm talking about it with you just today. This is Monday. The show comes out on Sundays. Lots of stuff happens very quickly nowadays in Florida, when the summers used to be the slow time, and hell nah. The Attorney General sent her a letter threatening about this. But he's saying it's a stand your ground case. It's a woman who shot someone in a road rage incident. I don't know enough about it to elaborate. But at the end of the letter, it said, you may be committing malfeasance, misfeasance, or whatever that term is, that those terms are that are in the Constitution that gives the governor the authority to suspend a constitutional officer. What are your thoughts on what's happening with that? And I don't know how much you know about it, but you and I were chatting while we were setting up, and you said, the courts, they have to do something. I think we've seen that the courts basically are powerless to stop this.
No, you just have to have judges who actually have the courage to do something right now.
Well, we had a federal judge who had the courage to do.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Well, he said, I don't have the power.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. There you go. Here's your federal judge that said, this is wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't have the power to change it.
And you think
yes, you do.
You think he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you wear the black robe if you don't have the power to undo a wrong, right? Why you have lifetime appointment, you got the black robes, you carry that big gavel, and then we all have to stand up when you walk in a room and you say you don't have the power to do it? Do you know the 11th Circuit it was on appeal there.
Mm-hmm.
The 11th Circuit, it seemed like, they actually overturned the judge and said you do have the power. And then by the time it went back to the judge, Andrew Warren was defeated again. And so it was moot by that point.
That's right.
Right? So the conservative 11th Circuit said,
that's right.
Yeah, you can't do this. So the thing is that if Monique Worrell is suspended again in this case, for not letting someone go who the Attorney General thinks should be let go based on stand your ground.
Right. I
think the courts will overturn that, because remember, the reason why she was suspended the first time was because she was not, according to the DeSantis administration, she was not doing her job on fighting crime. So now it's, you're being too tough on crime. You're not letting this person go. I don't think you can have it both ways like that. I think the courts will step in. And also, whether you agree with the elected state attorney's policies, she's the elected state attorney. You don't, as a democracy, has to mean something. And as the attorney general or governor, I don't think you have the right to micromanage the internal policies of an elected state attorney. As much as people may disagree or agree with her, I just don't think that's good policy.
Yeah.
Unless there is real malfeasance. Like, for example, if she came out like her predecessor did and said, I will never impose a death penalty no matter what. Now, that would be grounds. And in fact, Rick Scott actually could have removed the state attorney back then, but he didn't. He took the death penalty cases away from her. That means, see, you have to implement the law. You have to follow the law. And saying you're never going to follow the law, that could be grounds for removal. But this is not that.
Do you think that DeSantis, that the governor has, he's really flexed his executive authority in a way that we have not seen, I think, in a governor in modern history. I think he's really pushed the envelope. And I asked, I think that's intentional. Do you think it's too much, or do you think that this is is it a test? Is it healthy for democracy, for our system in Florida? Or what are your thoughts on that?
It's where we are. This is politics in the year 2025. It comes from the top. This is President Trump's model, and you just go as far and you test the limits and push the guardrails until you get pushback. And we've seen at the federal level that we have 3 branches of government, but one of them has self-emasculated. One of them has decided to take themselves out of the game and just defer to the executive branch. And you have one other branch left, and that's judiciary. And they've been doing some pushback. It's just only healthy in a democracy if you have all 3 co-equal branches of government actually being co-equal branches of government. And I think what you're seeing here at the state level now has changed because that the House pushed back against Governor DeSantis. I think that's a good thing, though. I just don't think it's good when the legislature rolls over for the chief executive. So I think that's good for democracy. And even though we have one-party rule in Tallahassee, this last session showed that it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, well, we got a little tension coming up. We'll have you back to talk about politics. I know it's getting late. I really appreciate you stopping in here with us. I'm going to give you a ride back to your hotel. It's getting late. Let me ask you a few fun questions.
Sure.
Room Raider loved you. Room Raider on your
yeah, of course.
Room Raider
that's right. That's
yeah,
back
I
in
know
the day.
it's a back in the day. Room Raider loved you.
Yes, I love them. They're in my Twitter bio. I quote them in my Twitter bio.
Oh my gosh! So did you get help? Who did that? Who staged you? Did you get help on that?
No, I staged myself, but because every time Room Raider would rate me, they would take off for a cord violation or the plant was dying or something. So I kept having to improve it until finally I got the 10 out of 10.
We love that. Are you going to be up here walking the halls in Tallahassee in your new role, or are you going to be doing the? What are you doing? You're doing podcasts. You're doing TV. You're doing YouTube. You're doing book. What's next?
Those are all side hustles. My main job is the managing partner of Dave Aronberg Law, or a boutique litigation firm. And I'm also with Capital City Consulting. So maybe I'll walk the halls for that, but I'm mostly focused at the local level. I let the statewide lobbyists do their thing up here. I haven't done that yet.
So I waited till the very end of the show to ask what you're doing now, and I asked you, okay.
Yeah, but so I essentially have 3 jobs. I've got the law firm, I've got Capital City Consulting, and I've got also the podcasting /TV /streaming stuff I do. And I love
the talking head.
The talking head, I love doing it. And
you're great.
Thank you. I really enjoy it. It also fills that political void. When I left office, it's like I can still talk about these issues and I don't have to take bad votes.
Okay, Crocs, yay or nay?
No.
Okay.
Also, I can't wear Crocs. I have really flat feet.
Oh, okay.
So it's really bad for my feet.
All right. Pumpkin spice, yay or nay?
Yes.
Oh.
But just not like the Starbucks where it's got more grams of sugar than 8 Krispy Kreme donuts,
Favorite app on your phone?
Instapaper.
Instapaper?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
It's a reading app. It's where I save all my articles and things, and it blows it up to big print so I can see it, and it has the speak feature. And honorable mention would be my Google Gemini.
Oh, Google Gemini. That's the AI?
I use it a lot these days, yeah. And I know people are like, why don't you use ChatGPT?
It didn't write your book, did it?
No. My book took 4 years in the making. It was before there was AI. Now you tell me there's AI to write my book?
I read it. It is not an AI generated. I would have been able to smell that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it as an insult. I was a joke.
No, I was gonna say now you tell me I could have had my book written by AI. That would have been easier.
All right. Favorite Halloween candy, and then we're done.
Oh man, I like candy corn.
Candy corn?
I eat the candy corn in pieces. Let's just do
the white first.
Yeah, the top part first.
Yeah,
I sort of like that.
That's what I used to do when I was a kid. I haven't had candy corn since before I got diabetes.
What's your favorite?
I don't
Oh,
have a
okay.
candy anymore. Remember, I have diabetes.
could have
He's sitting here.
sugar-free.
He's sitting here. There's no such thing. He's sitting here with the cheesecake he brought me and looking at it. All right. Dave Aronberg, the author of Fighting the Florida Shuffle, the former state attorney, the talking head, the law firm, boutique law firm guy. Thank you so much for joining us on Deeper Dive.
Thanks for having me, Dara.
Thanks for listening to Deeper Dive with Dara, a podcast by the News Service of Florida, hosted by News Service senior writer Dara Cam and produced by me, Mike Exline. Music for the podcast was recorded by Periodic Labs, LLC.